Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. Welcome, Lori, and welcome, Stephanie.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here once again. I love Tuesday mornings. And
I do
yes,
too.
welcome
So,
to
how are you
Stephanie.
doing, Lori?
I'm doing great. Another hot day here in a summer day in Texas. It's okay. It shall pass. And there's many ways to freshen up. So it's okay. And we're happy to have Stephanie here from Idaho as well. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here.
Stephanie, your mic is down a little bit
Oh no.
again. So,
How's that?
and it is raining in our area storms. So, just to let audience know, if our stuff goes out, Lori will carry us on here. So, don't worry about it.
Yes, I usually try to pick it up. He's like, "Oh, Tammy froze. Hopefully she'll be back." But Stephanie, you are an amazing guest, very much along the same lines as what Tammy and I do. And you co-founded a movement, right? Or a program with Jamie on something also that you go on hikes and you enjoy life in nature and do a lot of work with individuals. Um, what is your story behind that? When did this
Yeah, we want to hear
the
your whole story, like
desire?
where you started, how you got into this. So from time you were a kid to now. So
Oh my gosh. Oh, how fun. Okay.
it's totally different. We don't, we want to hear that story because that's what our audience loves to hear. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I grew up in the northern Michigan area as an outdoor sportswoman. I did a lot of hunting and fishing as a kid and four-wheeling and hiking. And it's very much how my dad and we bonded. And my mom and I would go out on hikes a lot too. So it's very much what I did with my family. We had a cabin up north and yeah, so I got into the outdoors very early and I went to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan for college where I really fell in love with just wilder spaces. And that's where I got my first guiding job on Lake Superior at a place called Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. And it was a total fluke of how I got in, but thank goodness that I got in. And I started kayak guiding during college. And in college, I was studying animal behavior, which led me to psychology. And I remember telling my friends, like, I will never work with people. They're too complicated. Like, I just want to work with animals and study animals. Um, and yeah, throughout college, I just guided a lot on the water and kayaks, camping. And I really,
wow, that's
yeah,
very cool.
thank you. Yeah, I just really fell in love with taking people out into these wild places because one thing that I noticed was as soon as we got in our boats and on the water, it was like this shell came off of them, like these identities of CEO or teacher or these hats and these roles that we play every single day. They just melted off within the first 3 minutes of being on the water. And I really genuinely loved connecting with people in this space that they found within themselves. And it was like this childlike wonder and awe would come out for these folks on vacation. And yeah, there was something about being in the presence of that just hooked me. And at the time for my program, I was also working in a group home with women who had cognitive and physical impairments. And I had an internship at a safe house for women who were survivors of DV and SA,
And where
uh,
was that at?
all out of Marquette, Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was like these two very distinct paths in my life of like the psychology, but I was trying to go for more the animal behavior, but the program required me to work with people. And then the wilderness and engaging with people in the wilderness. And I found a couple other guiding jobs that I did too. I found this niched out. I studied German in high school and college, and I found this niche role where they were looking for German speaking backpack guides. And so I did that. And then I also worked with kids who had physical impairments, taught them how to kayak, adaptive paddling. It was amazing. And we got to bring them out on the last day on Lake Superior. Um, and I worked a little bit in the Huron Mountain Club, guiding kids around. And so just like this deep love for the outdoors and in a professional sense really started to bud. Meanwhile, I'm finishing up my studies in college in psychology and in animal behavior specifically. I just really, something about observing behavior, specifically animals at the time, really inspired me and just grabbed my curiosity. So, yeah, it all kind of comes down to I was working this really old school breakfast diner and, wiping down tables, and there's these two two people my age that came in and I've never seen them before. Like Marquette at the time was a really small town, and I was just like, "Who are you guys? Where are you from? And what do you do?" They said that they were from Utah and that they did wilderness therapy, and something in my mind kind of clicked, like, "Wow, what is that?" For me, it felt like this bridge between these two very distinct pathways that my life was going down. And they explained it, and I was just completely enamored. So I did a ton of research on different programs, what it was about, and I found this one program in Colorado, and I didn't initially apply for it. Um, I graduated college. It kind of always sat in the back of my head. And I did a few other things in my life. And then in 2013 was really when it was like really calling to me. And so the one program that I found, I really loved their approach out of every other program. And for me, it was, I'm going to apply to this one. And if I don't get in, I'm not going to do wilderness therapy. They practiced yoga and meditation, as well as they were doing a organic whole food diet. And just like this, there was this integrated approach to mental health that really called to me. And so I applied, I got accepted, and that had totally changed the course of the direction of the rest of my life. Um, I
That's amazing. You just look at everything that you did. And a lot of times when we look back in life, we realize that there was a purpose for everything we did, and it all comes back together around later.
totally, absolutely. And at the time, I like kind of did yoga, but not really, like I was going through the motions of it, but I didn't have that embodied click. And I was curious about it. Um, so yeah, I got the job, and just it totally changed my whole life and understanding of people. And that's really where I started to apply the way that I was observing animal behavior and working with animals, how I really started to see how that could apply to humans, because we are animals. We are very complex, and at the same time, we're not. And I started to recognize these patterns that I could see with animals. I could start to see slightly that we also played out these patterns unconsciously. Um, and so, yeah, I started off as an apprentice, and in 3 years, I worked my way up to a senior guide. And the transformation that I saw in my students was the most inspiring thing I would say in just in my life of like, what is going on here? Like, there would be this 1 week for all of my students where I would walk into the group and it was like something was different in their eyes. You could see that they were there. Whereas before there was like space and distance, and yeah, it's hard to articulate truly, but to be in the presence of this great shift that I was seeing consistently with all of these students that were coming through this program, it was transformational, not just for them, but for me in witnessing them in this process. And so I worked my way up to head guide, and I really loved that it was the first job that I had of growing professionally, but also having a job that challenged me personally. And yeah, once when I became a head guide, I kind of hit the ceiling where it was really hard to continue growing, and I really wanted that. And so it made sense for me to go and get my master's and become a therapist and come back to the wilderness and using the wilderness as a healing modality. Um, yeah, so I did that. And after I graduated grad school, I was applying to my home program. And in the midst of it, I had this random call I still don't really know how they found me, but they said that they were in northern Idaho and they wanted me to start a wilderness therapy program for them. And at first I was like, first of all, how did you get my resume? And second of all, did you even read it? Because at the time I did not feel qualified for it at all. And it felt like a huge stretch for me. And ultimately, I decided to try it. I wanted to grow in those ways. I love being challenged personally, professionally. And so I took it and I moved out to Idaho and I started this nonprofit wilderness therapy program in partnership
Mm.
with the school out here. And it was amazing. And I was taking adolescent girls out in the heart of a Montana winter into the depths of the Montana wilderness. And we were out there for 7 days. And afterwards, these girls were begging their superiors to send them back out. They wanted to come back out on this. And some of the transformations and the conversations and the shifts that even in 7 days we were having was, again, just so incredibly inspiring of what is going on here. And in this program, I utilized a lot of what I learned in the wilderness program that I worked at straight out of college of utilizing mindfulness and yoga and nature to connect with our minds and our bodies, and coming back to our truth and recognizing just kind of this gunk that we learn along the way and these habituated unconscious patterns that create suffering and misalignment, and it takes us away from our true identity. Um, yeah, and so that we then COVID hit, as many people's stories. Um, end a lot with, but that wasn't just the ending. It was very much a beginning of me going into private practice and starting. The name of my business is called The Nature of Mind Body, and it's comprised of we've got mental health counseling, we have coaching, health and wellness coaching, and then we do these nature expeditions. It's nature therapy expeditions, and so it's very intentional where we target specific niche demographics, and we teach them about the body and the brain, the nervous system. We teach them about mental health, and we're utilizing nature and the wilderness as a teacher, as a mirror, and the intervention as well. And it's just been absolutely incredible. I feel incredibly fortunate to be doing this. It's a very interesting, niched out, they like just field to be in, and I feel really fortunate that I get to do this.
Oh,
Wow.
and we live in a beautiful area,
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Stephanie, I'm so curious to know because you keep talking about transformation and the first time you mentioned how when you were a kayak guide, all these identities kind of like fell off. And I would call it like masks or just roles and hats people wear.
Hmm.
If you want to mention, I want to start there, like what how did you notice that? Like how did you notice there was a little shift or like, oh, the drop down of that during those
Yeah,
expeditions?
that is such a good question. I think that when we look at the nervous system, we we need each other. We are a species that we literally need each other to survive. There is nothing about our bodies that is equipped to handle the wilderness alone. Like right now we are all clothed and I am in a controlled room, like I don't have fur that will keep me warm outside. Like we need each other. And so our nervous system has this ability to pick up these super subtle cues that let us know viscerally. Like, I don't even think that this is happening on quite a conscious level of knowing, am I safe in this connection? Am I connected? And they say that 98% of communication is nonverbal. Only what, like 2 to 7% is what you say. It's all how you say it. And that's our nervous system picking up on that. And so it's hard to articulate because it's a presence, it's a sense that I get, it's a lightness. And again, it's like there's something different in their eyes. If I had to articulate it, it's more playful and awe and relaxed and free. Honestly, it's a freedom that you can sense when you're in the presence of.
And did
Well,
the
and
background learning about animals help you with, I'm sure you have mentioned it already, but then did that background helping learning about animal behaviors help you with the humans that you were kayaking?
I would say significantly because
Yeah.
animal behavior, you have to watch the behavior and you're really you're really studying what's going on. And with humans, it's you have to do the same too because we're really good at thinking one thing, but our nervous systems are totally telling an entirely different story. And so if you can observe and watch and actually listen to not what's being said verbally, but what's being said in that 98, 92% of everything else and really tap into that, um, tap into the nervous system and then also like use yourself to feel into them. Um, yeah, I would say that it helped me to identify a lot. Like in my private practice, I'm looking for patterns, like the unconscious habituated patterns, which stem from trauma.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right. Well,
totally.
and I know when I've worked with children that have been abused in situations, they come out for art. The first thing I do, because they're not open, a lot of times they're not talking, is I may have them walk through my yard, through the forest, and we're like looking for a bird's nest or frogs and different things. And it's amazing, like you said, how you start seeing their eyes lift, that sparkle, and they start in their body, it's not as tense, and so they just start to relax, and then they will open up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like using nature as the intervention, right? There's so many ways that we can use nature to be mindful and to practice presence. There's so much healing in that power of presence.
And Stephanie, and fast forward then to, for example, your opportunities in that wilderness therapy place and all that. You said something about the girls and in taking them to Montana. Then what are those changes that you said? You again mentioned the word transformation, speaking of tone and how your lights light up, when you mentioned that. What was the transformation in those young women, and how were you able to notice, or what was it? How were they expressing that?
Mm. Oh man, that is such a good question. And I would love to go through every single one of them because they are just uh it's been an honor to witness it. Yeah, so there's so much that goes on in that. There's something that as I mentioned before, we are wired to connect. We are wired to meet each other and to be needed and to feel like we love and belong. That is a universal need. We have five universal needs, and love and belonging is one of them. And we need that. Without that, we have abandonment and rejection, and that is the root of CPTSD, and disconnect and suffering. And so when you can take a small group out in the wilderness and bond, something happens where you feel like you belong. There's a regulation in your nervous system where you relax a little bit, where you want to work together as a group, where you want to um, change so that you can, what is the word I'm looking for? It becomes less about you as the individual and more about us as a community and as a group. And there's so much like nuance in that does change, of like the tone and cooperation and understanding, and communication changes as well too. Like we learn, instead of talking passively, passive aggressively, or if we are speaking aggressively, we teach them how to speak assertively, where you're honoring yourself and also honoring somebody else. um, I had one girl who was groomed by an older gentleman for human trafficking. And out in the wilderness, it was right after we'd just done yoga in front of this beautiful lake with the backdrop of mountains. She was talking about finally being able to recognize what had happened and forgive herself for it. And there's a weight. It's again, it's very hard to articulate, but when you're in the presence of it, there's a weight that changes and shifts, the insight that comes from it, and you just get clear on your values and what you want in life. A lot of these gals, they realize that they actually do want relationships, like healthy relationships with their family, and they recognize in themselves what they're accountable for in that and what they want to work on to change to have those healthy relationships, and not just in their family but just in life in general. They recognize what their triggers are so that they are able to identify it in the future and recognize cognitive distortions, how they're distorting reality to fit a narrative that is not true and does not fit. They gain self-esteem and confidence, and it's part of these unconscious patterns get played out because of these core negative beliefs that we have. So if you're walking around believing that you are not good enough or you're a failure, your nervous system and your brain is actively distorting the reality to gather, like what you seek you will always find. That's why the unconscious is so powerful, and it's important that we address it. And so when we were bringing these girls out there, we're utilizing nature as a mirror to help us understand what's going on in your unconscious. What are these patterns? And so once we can bring those out and talk about them, and then they can actively watch it happening in real time. And then it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like these beliefs are being triggered in everything you do. And so that you're able to then challenge those beliefs and recognize, like, wait a second, like, where did I learn this? Is this even true? Is that source of where I learned it, is it even reliable? We can deconstruct it a little bit, and then we can find something that's closer to the truth of, like, yeah, I am good enough. And I've failed before, but it doesn't mean that I'm a failure. And it gives us the opportunity to really look at what is this, uh, how are we operating? What is that script that we're operating on? And what are we playing out all of the time? And then it gives us the opportunity in real time to start to challenge and change that.
Well, and also, you look at it, they're getting the courage because a lot of times this is things that they've never done before, probably. And so they're getting that courage to go camping, to go hiking, even on their own. And then the achievement when you get up to a high lake or to where your goal was to hike to, there's like so much in it besides building relationships with the team that's there, and they're opening up, you're listening to it. I mean, there's a lot to it that people do not even realize. And it's because you're so enjoying the nature that's around you.
Stephanie, and that is so true, Tammy, that reward, that sense of accomplishment, right, as a community, as an individual, to have been able to do that together and hit that goal. I even have in my guided visualization practice a very renowned script that is hiking to the mountain of freedom, right? So accomplishing to that peak or that place is just amazing. And how we've interviewed somebody from Switzerland that does her counseling sessions as she walks. She walks with her dog and her client, and that she feels the same, how nature helps the person relax and become more open, etc. What is your, if you have anecdotal evidence or more scientific evidence on the difference then than sitting in virtual session or sitting in an office versus this transformation you're talking about in nature? Because some therapists might argue like those same things that you feel or you say that you have been able to accomplish with these girls may happen sitting in a room, a four-wall room. So what is your stance on saying, hey, I have done this and I have done this other way, and there's more or better results in the wilderness, in nature?
Yeah. There's a lot of science behind regulating effects of nature on the nervous system. As far as studies that go into the difference between having a session in an office versus having a telehealth session versus walk talk therapy, I'm not familiar with the literature. However, the point of view where I stand is that everybody's journey is going to be different, and wellness and mental health, I believe, needs to be integrated. And so I do have a lot of clients that are on telehealth. It's just the nature of the beast when you're living very rurally. And I do incorporate in a lot of our in-between sessions like having them go for hikes and whatnot. Um, so yeah, it's different for sure. And there's two separate businesses or arms in the nature of mind body, right? Like there's the counseling, the mental health, where it is important to sit and talk about and cerebrally process all of these things. But then the backpacking retreats, like, okay, cool, like let's integrate and apply. And yeah, definitely sessions are very different when I do go outside and do walk talk versus if I'm in my office or if I'm in telehealth. And I would say that it adds, it's just a different, to be very informal, it's just a different vibe. But I wouldn't say that it necessarily, like in that context, specifically takes anything away from the person. What's important is that they're in therapy and they're talking about this stuff.
Sure.
And then they're integrating nature somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like an added bonus. It's an
Yeah,
added sedative that, sort of speak, like that calms them and just helps them realize certain things. Another thing is also, especially for the youth, is the realization that they don't have to, that they can realize, I should say, that away from screens, away from phones, there's also a life out there. And maybe learn how to appreciate that and understand that can be implemented into their lives for their well-being, overall well-being, healing, and prosperity and future. I know somebody that doesn't can stand the outdoors. That means to this person bugs and discomfort and sweat. And it's changing and shifting that paradigm, especially with the youth nowadays, where sometimes, we used to say, come, over the summer, there's the generational idea of, hey, make sure you just come back for dinner time at 5. And people were out there in their bikes and discovering and exploring. Nowadays, moms need to tell the kids, no, you're grounded, go outside. And that has to change. And maybe this is another bonus then for them to realize that being out in nature is amazing and transformative.
absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, my belief is that mental well-being, it needs to be an integrated approach. I think that um, with Western psychology and the approach that we have to clinical therapy, I mean, it gets a lot of it gets a lot of negative attention, I suppose. Like there's a lot to criticize about it. Um, but at the same time, I think it's absolutely necessary and mandatory. And it's only playing one role. It's just a cog in the entire machine. And I think a lot of times in therapy and in clinical counseling, we get stuck in the cerebral and the processing and the talking about. And it feels like the more we talk about it, we're actually getting somewhere. And it's important. It absolutely is important because awareness, once when it's in your awareness, then you've got the option to change. You have choice as soon as you are brought aware of these things. All of it's important. However, if it's just stuck in the processing of it, then you're just talking about it. But again, with an integrated approach to mental well-being, you have to do something about it. And that doing is somatics. It's a bottom-up approach. It is lifestyle. It is integration. So yeah, absolutely. It's a very important for these these kids to be getting outside and to be getting that regulation. And there's lots of studies that show the importance of being bored and what that does to the brain, which is actually really good for you to be bored and go outside and figure something out. Um, yeah.
Well, it helps physically, correct? So
Oh,
when it's helping us physically, then it's going to help us mentally. Is that correct?
hmm. And that's the thing is that mind body is so interwoven that I believe you have to do both. Like your mind feeds into your body and then your body feeds into your mind. And it is just a complete cycle. And so with an integrated approach to well-being, you can interrupt it at the mind part, and then that's going to feed into the body, or you can interrupt it at the body part, and that's going to feed into the mind too. Like think about a panic attack. It's there is a physiological thing that's happening at the beginning of a panic attack. There's something that's happening in your body. Well, your brain is registering. First of all, it happens unconsciously in your reptilian brain of like, wait a sec, something's off. And then that starts to send signals to your body of like, uh-oh, something's off.
Danger. Hmm.
Start to raise that a little bit. And then finally, our bodies, it starts to come into our conscious of like, wait a second, like something's really bad. And then those thoughts, something's really bad, plays further into raising it. And then before you know it, most people that I talk to that have a panic attack, when it is at like the peak of the panic attack, they actually think that they're dying. And it was their thoughts that fed into their body, and then their body that fed back into their
Reacted.
exactly.
Hmm.
And so like that is just like a little microcosm of what's just always happening. And so think about if you think that you're not good enough or you're failure, or think of that if you are worthy and loving and lovable and deserving, like it plays into everything.
It
I
does.
love
Now,
it. I love
and
it.
now you
Yes.
had mentioned you had helped and worked with youth that for doing stuff. I think you said were they disabled or something that you helped?
Yeah, when I was in college, I it was called the Huron Mountain Club. It's an incredible program. It's in Big Bay, Michigan, on the shores of Lake Superior, and the community loves the Huron, or I'm sorry, the community loves Big Bay. Or oh my gosh, Bay
It's
Cliff.
okay.
It's been a while since I've talked about Bay Cliff. Bay Cliff Health Camp in Big Bay, Michigan, where people just donated their lake houses and boats, and they, yeah, it's incredible. They take kids from across the entire nation, and they have for the entire summer they have a PT, they have an OT, they have doctors, and there it's just an intensive, beautiful nature camp for these kids. And yeah, I taught them. I did adaptive paddling and taught them how to paddle. And once when we practiced, we had a pool and we'd bring the kayaks in, and for each kid, whatever their physical impairment was, we would take notes. And there's tons of incredible braces that you can put on their hands to like help them hold a paddle, or if they can't sit up on their by themselves, you can you there's it's incredible. And so once when we taught them how to paddle, they had to do a wet exit, which means you roll them over and they have to get out on them by themselves. After a couple weeks of practicing that, then we take them out on the big water. And again, it's just like just pure joy. Like it's so fun. And it's just incredible to be witness of that and be in the presence of that. It's very yeah. I'm addicted to it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, and it shows in your face when you just
Hmm.
light up. So, but it also
Oh,
tells others that are watching this that it doesn't matter if you have a physical impairment, there's ways to overcome, to go
Hmm.
outside, you know.
And
yeah.
enjoy nature, enjoy the beautiful healing powers and effects of nature. So,
Mhm.
Stephanie, what is your most desirable dream as far as offering a retreat? Like, where would be your perfect spot for you to do it? Like, oh, that will be a dream come true, bucket list checked off.
Just the first knee-jerk reaction would be to take people into the Sawtooth in Idaho.
Oh, South where? I don't know that place. Or
The
Sawtooth.
Sawtooth, they're south of Stanley, Idaho, and
They're beautiful.
oh my gosh, they are truly incredible. And there's a 50-mile circuit that I did a couple summers ago, and the whole time I don't think I closed my mouth once. I think my mouth was just like open and just completely in awe the entire time. It was amazing. And it's cool because that area, there's so many like geologic or geothermic activity that you'll be hiking, and then all of a sudden you're like, smells like sulfur, and there's a hot spring. It's a magical place. I love the Sawtooths.
no. So that is for the people that are out of the United States or out of Idaho. I'm gonna look that up and put it in the comments, or maybe you can do that.
It's about
Um,
an hour from Sun Valley. What is it? 2 hours, 3 hours from Boise?
That sounds about right.
I think
mhm.
so. It's in the middle. Idaho is a beautiful state. We have so many just natural beauty here with the lakes and mountains, where we live because Stephanie lives up here in North Idaho. Um, and we're only an hour from the Canadian border. Stephanie's closer to Montana than I am. She's only what, a 10 or 20 minutes?
Maybe if
I'm an hour. So I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous area up here for hiking and stuff. But every place you look in the world, there's so many beautiful places you just have to explore. So, what would you like to tell our audience?
that.
Any hiking tips or
Um, no, just get outside. The point is to get outside, and it doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter if you've got the right gear. It doesn't matter. Nothing, it doesn't matter. Like, I think in this day and age, like, you know, we think we've got to have the best backpack, the best shoes. Just get outside. And if you're going to get outside and like go into the wilderness, be safe about it. Do some research, absolutely. Yeah, but just go. The point is not how you look or how it needs to be. The point is getting there. And again, that's like when I'm taking people on a hike up to the top of a mountain, we use nature as a reflection. And I love hard hikes because you can really see the depths of the unconscious come out of where they will, they won't ask if they're tired, they won't ask because they don't want to be a burden on the group. Well, that little teeny tiny nugget plays out in everything that they do. And or they're not going fast enough. And so all of our stuff will come out. And I tell them, like, you know what? It doesn't matter if I'm crab walking up this entire mountain and it takes me a week. That's not the point. Is it doesn't matter how it looks. The point is that we're out here and that we're going to get to the top. So yeah, it doesn't have to be pretty. You don't have to be in shape. Just be smart if you're going out into the backcountry. Do a little bit of research. If you've got bears in the area, bring some bear spray, bring some water, appropriate clothes. Don't go into the Grand Canyon with sweatshirts on and one little teeny tiny bottle of water.
no.
But just be smart and just get outside and enjoy it and turn your phone off. Um, Unless you're using it as a GPS. But yeah, just
Or
like get
camera.
Or
or
camera.
camera.
I use mine as a camera.
Yeah.
Tammy
Camera
would
and
say, or
GP
camera.
GPS.
Yeah. Get
So,
outside and slow down and look at the flowers or look at the needles on a tree or really get
yeah.
up close to the bark and smell the bark, smell the sap. Slow down.
So we have a viewer saying Ika is saying that you're a great speaker, great guest, and she's a German fellow speaker. She's originally from Germany, is my understanding. And then she's saying you are great. We're talking here, Tammy and Lori. Tammy is the country mouse, and I'm the city mouse, if you remember that story. I love the work that my city is doing because they have tried to bring nature in the middle of the city. And like you say, I don't have the beauty you guys are surrounded by, sadly, but this is where we are at. And I'm originally from Puerto Rico, actually, and I just came back from there, and it's just so amazing, the beauty and the resources, the water, the ocean. But here, I need to make the most of it, and I just need to proactively find great spaces and places, and I have done that in within 5 minutes of where I am. I just love little trails that we have around here. I just
Yeah.
love my neighbors like sunflowers, Debbie, if you're watching. I really appreciated that when she planted those and I would see the red robins and the blue jays coming, and it's just right next to my house in the middle of the city. And I love when I know about people living in apartments and their little porch or balcony or inside their house, they have little bell peppers or a lot of plants. So like you say, Stephanie, I agree. Doesn't have to be the perfect situation, circumstance, the perfect gear, the perfect equipment, as long as we're using our common sense, sorry, and safety and taking care of ourselves with a lot of water. It's so important to reap the effects of nature. And I want to encourage people to do that. Let us know where you're at and what is it that you do to connect with nature. I also know people that watch us. Some are homebound and some have celebrated with us when they have opened their door or their window or stepped outside to get the sunlight. So I do understand, we do understand there's those circumstances. But we are so grateful you are here. Tammy, sorry, you're gonna say.
Oh, I was going to say, I have a story. So, I one time, my husband and I, we thought we'd go up to Harrison Lake. I don't know if you've hiked Harrison Lake, Stephanie,
No, not yet.
yet. Have you hiked Harrison Lake, Stephanie?
No, not
So
yet.
Harrison Lake is about, I think it's a 3 mile hike in. But we thought it was only like a quarter of a mile. We got out of the car and we were hiking. Well, we didn't take water. We didn't take anything with us. And we're usually have our backpacks and everything, right? And we hiked all the way to the top and back. And then I think, but then we found, that was, I would never ever advise that. Always take water. So what I did is I have a backpack that I have automatically a water filter in case I forget water. I have my water filter in there and I have bear spray attached. So it just has and a first aid kit in it. So all I do is I always grab that. I just keep it in the car. Um, just so I can just grab it whenever we decide that we're gonna hike. So, and people might want to do that. Just get yourself a light backpack that you can wear. And the bear spray is good for if there's a moose, cougar, you know. Your any other advice that you would like to share?
Um, yeah, for the you mentioned that some of your listeners are more homebound. And again, it's like opening up a window or even getting close to a window. And um, there's a reason why when people are like flipping out, like just kind of like, "Wah," why people say, come back to your senses, man. Like if you slow it down, it's come back to your senses, be mindful, come back to your senses. And so people who are homebound, or even, you can't get out into the depths of the wilderness, go outside or sit by a window or open up a window. And what are 5 things that you can hear? Like, what's the closest sound you can hear? What's the furthest sound you can hear? What are 4 things you can feel? What does it feel like? The wind? Can you feel the wind on your face? Is there a part of your body that is really warm? What about that's really cold? What are 3 things that you can touch? Like go through your senses and get really present. What is this sense experiencing? That would be what I would recommend because it just heightens our connection to ourselves. And the way that the nervous system works is when we practice, it's called interoception. When we practice going through being mindful and getting present and feeling, what does it feel like the cold wind on my right cheek? And we can sit with that. We're actually also teaching ourselves to feel our emotions and to be better emotional regulators. Because when we are getting escalated, or we are just acting outside of our values or who we are, it's all it is. And I don't mean to distill it all down to this simple whatever, but all it is just we are experiencing something uncomfortable in our bodies and we're trying to escape the discomfort. So when we learn to feel physical things in our bodies, like something as simple as the wind, or get very present with the sunshine on our face, we are learning how to sit in the discomfort and feel our bodies and be safe in that discomfort. And then we're able to better regulate.
Yeah, it's like I know the little saying that says that being still and doing nothing are two completely different things. So that in that stillness, you're doing so much though, observing, regulating. I've done that floating in the water in the ocean. Like I just like to hear myself breathing. I like to feel the sensation of the water in my body. I like to look at the sky if I can, and it's safe to look up at the sky. And there's so much that happens in that stillness, right? Sometimes stillness is the best movement, also, I've heard. So I want to ask you because time goes by so fast when we're having fun, and you've been an amazing guest with helping us understand the healing powers of nature. What is one piece of advice you offer this outdoor adventures and retreats and wilderness outings? Tammy and I, we do that too. What's one piece of advice you would offer someone seeking to rediscover their relationship with nature? And also understanding that it can be so pivotal in their well-being, so transformational. And somebody's like, oh, I still don't buy into this thing. What can you tell them other than yes, give themselves that opportunity, go out there, but what is it that you're like, ah, I wish everybody would understand, blah, blah, blah. Fill in the blanks.
Um, Curiosity. Just
Mm,
get curious. If you don't want to go outside, get curious with why. Get curious with yourself. Like if you're feeling like a failure, instead of cognitively adding on to that, just get curious about that. Get curious about the sun. Get curious. Like, yeah, curiosity is the ticket, I would say. Does that answer your question?
sure, then curiosity will help them become aware so that they will debunk or destroy those paradigms, or for them to understand and make a decision to
Hmm. Yeah.
remain the same, or debunk it, or say, oh, this is why this bad experience, or so and so. My parents never, because I love that part of your story started with your dad. You said that that's how you and your dad bonded, fishing, going outside. I love that. And some of us, or some people out there, don't have that experience, that great memory of being out there from earlier on. And some have forgotten. So I think curiosity on as to why, it's going to help them be aware and understand themselves to maybe make a choice to try it out again. I love that. Yes, that answers.
And I love the fact that you were talked about how the study of animals does help you with humans, it's like, and the sitting still, it all reminds me. Last week I was watching, because we have an area where you can sit and you can just watch the chipmunks playing, right? And then the hummingbirds, sometimes they'll even come and land on you, when you're sitting there. It's just breathtaking. But I watched this little chipmunk. I had given it, I think it had gotten one of the plums, and it's sitting there eating it, and then its little brother or sister come up, and it goes and bites off a piece and hands it to it.
Oh,
And you don't see that all the time. And then while I was sitting there, what was funny, because I'm like laughing, is it comes another little one of the little children, it comes running over, goes under my lawn chair and sits next to my leg, and just sits there like it's sunbathing.
You're a special spirit, Tammy. Animals trust you. So,
But it's just sitting there listening, like you said. And because it's amazing what we can learn from animals and birds, squirrels, chipmunks, when you just watch.
yeah, it's like people rejoice by saying, I love people watching at malls, public places, airports, and things like that. But it will be so good if more people are nature watching, right? Spend time nature watching.
oh yeah.
Because nature, we can learn so much from nature, the creatures, the vegetation, everything. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here, for taking your time to share with us and our audience. We certainly love having you, and hearing your voice and seeing your passion, feeling that passion that you have, living the life that I think you've chosen, and opportunities have also showed up to you where you have embraced them to step into it and then see how you're benefiting the community and others. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, any last words? I know you go ahead, and we've put Stephanie's website in our stuff, but if anybody's interested in contacting Stephanie for a retreat or anything, please do so.
Yeah, yeah, I do. My business partner and I, we do private retreats. We'll do family retreats, so family counseling while in the wilderness. Um, yeah, we really customize everything to the individual's needs, and what's coming up for them. Um, yeah, and I would be so honored if any of your listeners wanted to go outside with me and learn something.
Wonderful.
So,
Thank
and
you.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to say thank you so much for watching today, or if you're watching later on the recorded version. We appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing this and all that you do for us. So thank you so much for being here. We hope you have a great week.
Bye bye.
Bye.